Welcome back to The Curious Cat. Today we're going to be talking about, this is the second video in which we're talking about the life of Michelangelo. So if you didn't see the first one, go back and watch the first one so you know everything that happened to lead up to this very dramatic moment. Because Michelangelo is coming back to Florence. He's by the way, his political standpoint, like the way he feels politically, is that he is a supporter of the Republic, of the democracy. So politically, he's with them, okay? In fact, we start to see that in the meantime, we have another Pope, Pope Leo X, who we talked about. He used to be John of the Medici family. He then becomes a cardinal. His family gets kicked out of Florence, so he's forever trying to bring his family back. We'll talk more about this in another video when we talk specifically about Pope Leo X. But all you need to know now is that he is concerned with bringing his family back to Florence. He's concerned with partying and making tons of money. That's his main concern. But he's also concerned with bringing Florence back into the power of the Medici, and this time officially, okay, as RuPaul would say. Now, officially because he doesn't want it to be like merchants ruling behind closed doors anymore. He wants the Medici to be official rulers. He will work to make them into dukes, and Florence is going to become a dukedom, and it's going to become a dukedom under the Medici family. Okay, so he reinstalls the Medici back, but to do this, I mean, the Republic puts up a fight. It puts up a big fight against the forces which are bringing the Medici back into Florence. And here, I mean, if there was, you know, with creating the David and working so much for the Republic, you could say, well, it's a commission like another commission. If there could have been some doubt about where Michelangelo stood politically, here he pulls out all the stops and shows his true colors, because he helps the resistance. He helps the Florentine army, which is resisting the forces which are coming to bring the Medici back in. He actually helps reconstruct the walls that are supposed to defend Florence from this. So he really shows himself as someone who is actively fighting to keep the Medici out. When the Medici actually managed to get back in, he hides. He hides in a cellar for weeks because he's worried that when the Medici find him, he's going to be in so much trouble for not having supported them and for like really having acted against them, the people that he should have some kind of attachment to because of his past, okay? I mean, Pope Leo X, they share the same house for a while, right? So he's in hiding. When he comes out of hiding, it is because Pope Leo X sends out the word that, like, dude, it's fine. I'm not happy with how you behaved, but more important to me is your artistic capabilities. So as long as you do what you're told, you can come back out. And first thing he does is give him some commissions. These commissions are works which Michelangelo is going to do, he has mixed feelings about, because they are commissions where he can express himself freely, okay? However, he's doing them a little bit half-heartedly, because at this point, he can't stand the Medici family anymore. He's had it with the Medici, but he has to work for them, all right? He gets commissioned. He does the beautiful library in Florence during these days. He does some tombs. He does a chapel where there's some family members of the Medici are buried there. He also gets commissioned with the glorious facade of the San Lorenzo Church, which is one of the most important churches in Florence, which is the most dear church to the Medici family. Have you seen that facade? You can see it right here. Does it look really good? Nah. That's what you get for commissioning work to Michelangelo and paying in advance. So a lot of ideas go into this, but the facade is actually never done. That's what a facade looks like when it's empty. That's what's behind the marble, okay? Marble is never structural, right? So behind all the beautiful marble facades that you see in Italy, there's these ridges, as you can see on the Church of St. Lawrence today, okay? So he will then go back to Rome after the death of Pope Leo X. We have another pope and then another Medici pope, Pope Clement VII. But Pope Clement VII isn't really like, we will see that he does commission other work to Michelangelo, but he's got bigger fish to fry. He's not such a great personality like Pope Leo X. However, Michelangelo's had it with Florence at this point. He doesn't want to have much to do with Florence anymore, and he moves back to Rome, where he hopes to stay for the rest of his life. He does return to Rome actually to do a work for the second Medici Pope, which is Clement VII. Judgment Day, which is, or the Last Judgment, sorry, which is under the Sistine Chapel, only on kind of vertically rather than right on top of you. And you can really see how he's changed during these years in between the Sistine Chapel and the Last Judgment, is commissioned by Clement VII. Now, this is also a period in which we start to see something happening in Michelangelo and in his beliefs system, okay? These are the years, we talked about this on another video where I mentioned that also because of Pope Leo X, but not only, we have the Protestant Reformation begins, okay? So Martin Luther is the first one to really stand up against the Catholic Church. And we've talked about what other countries, what other people think about, you know, the Catholic Church outside of Italy. But these ideas about how the Catholic Church was corrupt were not only ideas that you found outside of Italy. These were ideas that you found also among Italians. Italy wasn't a country yet, but you know, among people of the Italian peninsula, among people in Rome, and also among people of a certain position. Also educated and rich people thought about this a lot. And Michelangelo did think about this a lot. These were ideas that had been stirring for a while. So even though, ironically, his paintings, including The Last Judgment and also very much the Sistine Chapel, will be actively attacked by the Protestant Reformation, saying, oh, look at those popes who have all these naked bodies painted inside their churches, so much so that later on there's a painter which is actually paid to paint knickers on top of the naked characters painted by Michelangelo. Imagine that being your job, having to paint knickers on top of Michelangelo's naked bodies. So ironically, his work is actually under attack by the Reformation later, but he is one of those people which truly believes that there should be a change within the church. He's actually part of a religious secret movement which includes a number of people who are talking about this, who believe basically what Luther says, that you can't, your actions like paying money or things like this can't buy your way into heaven. Okay, he will have a very long-lasting, very deep connection and relationship, not like a sexual or like that kind of relationship, with Vittoria Colonna, who was an incredible woman of her time. And there will be a lot of letters exchanged between them about this subject matter, okay? The subject of the Pietà, which he sculpted at the beginning of his career, he will do that subject matter again and again in drawing and in sculpture, because it's one of the symbols of this kind of like little sect that he is part of, okay? So at one point, however, a lot of the members of this sect will be discovered, and they will be, some of them put to death, arrested, and luckily for his good connections, he won't, but then he'll kind of stop his connections with these kind of groups. But he will always be very much asking questions, and he's definitely a supporter of the idea that the church should go through a very important changement, okay? And you can already start to see how he feels in the paintings of this time, and you can see it in the difference between how he treats the human body in the Last Judgment compared to, for example, the Sistine Chapel. Okay. But I'm getting ahead of myself because he will become a lot more expressive about how he thinks about this subject matter during the time in which he works for another pope, which is Pope Paul III. Pope Paul III and Michelangelo will actually be buddies. Like, he's worked for popes, but he was never friends with them. With this pope, he actually has a connection with him, and he really, you could say that they're friends, okay? Because Pope Paul III was the one that was dealing with the Reformation. But what people often don't realize is that Pope Paul III, even though he was very ruthless in many ways, we'll talk about this in another video where we talk about the Salt Wars, he did try to approach the problem of the Reformation with a more open in a more open way than you would think. So, for example, he called the Council of Trent. The Council of Trent was basically organized in Trent in northern Italy, where the cardinals, which were supporting Luther, and the cardinals of the Catholic Church could meet and talk for months about basically trying to find solutions. I mean, for a pope of those days, that's pretty open-minded and pretty, forward-thinking. Like, let's sit down and talk about it. Let's try to find a solution, okay? He died like after it started. So after that, it just took a different turn, and they didn't really, the council, which was supposed to conciliate, to bring them back together, the concilio, didn't work out. And in fact, today we have two different churches, right? So this just to tell you that Pope Paul III was one of the people that was open to the idea that the church might have to change its ways a little bit and to listen to what the critics of the Catholic Church were saying, rather than just stomp them all out. He was also the one that started the Inquisition, so he's kind of like doing both. Like at some point when there's no more room for making peace, I guess that you just have to stomp them out if you're the Pope. But interesting personality, and I think that they surely had a lot of discussions and interesting conversations about theology. Definitely conversations that he didn't, have with other popes, that he didn't really have a closer relationship with. So, for Pope Paul III, he does also do some work. He paints some frescoes also for him during these years, which are very deep and with a lot of like spiritual meaning behind them, definitely more than what we see done before. He gets a lot of commissions in Rome. At this point, he is extremely successful, extremely famous. He still has a relationship that lasts for many, many years with Tommaso de' Cavalieri, which is a nobleman of Rome, who we have a sketch, a portrait of him. I think he must have been really hot, actually, just looking at this portrait. He a very beautiful man. And we have letters and sonnets. Michelangelo also liked to write a little bit of poetry, a little bit of sonnets, which he dedicated to Tommaso de' Cavalieri. So he did have a soft side as well. He did have some love in his life. There's also, I love this drawing that he did, that he dedicated to Tommaso, that he sent to Tommaso, which is a drawing of Zeus and Ganymede. This is a myth which is used as a symbol of homoerotic love during the Renaissance, because it's this love story between Zeus, who, he's always turning into something so that he can get his hands on whoever he wants to sleep with at that time. So in this particular case, Zeus transforms into an eagle so he can kidnap the boy Ganymede to take him away so he can have his way with him. Now, in this drawing by Michelangelo, there is the eagle who is taking this Ganymede by the legs from behind, and whilst Ganymede is kind of wrapping his arm around this eagle, is this beautiful, beautiful scene, in my opinion. And I can really just imagine Michelangelo seeing himself as, the eagle, and Tommaso as his Ganymede. And yeah, in these years, you have to think that even though you had to, in theory, you weren't allowed to be homosexual, Florence was quite a safe haven for homosexuality compared to other places, okay? So it was often known when people were homosexual, even though they couldn't be it totally openly, you didn't get into that much of trouble. I mean, so much so that, for example, if you, in Germany, if they wanted to say that you were gay, they would call you Florentine, because it was known that Florence was a safe haven for homosexuals. So much so that the Catholic Church even started an office, a special office called the Ufficio dell'Onestà, the Office of Honesty, to organized by the church to bring in the highest end and most educated prostitutes to try to distract men from sleeping with other men. The concept was men are sleeping with other men because they want connection and not just sex, and they can't get that from women which are from a lower strata of society. So the women that are of their social position are in the homes. They're not allowed to go out and party with them, right? So you either marry them or you don't get to hang out with them. So the only reason for men to have a relationship which was sexual but also went deeper was to have it with other men. So this was the concept of the church of the time anyway. And so they're like, so if we bring in prostitutes which are actually educated and that will give them a better time, then maybe men will stick to women. Okay, this is not obviously what I think. This is what the church of the time thought when it was bringing in these high-end and very educated and well-bred prostitutes. So yeah, just this to give you an idea of his more romantic side of Michelangelo. He does have some close friends. It's still a very hard time in his life. I guess it's always hard for Michelangelo. It's hard being Michelangelo. But at the end of his life, there's something else which happens, which is he's starting to lose his capabilities, which we all do at some point. But for him, that's all that's ever been important for him, was his capabilities to sculpt. So when he becomes less good at what he's doing, he just can't bear it. So there'll be the famous case in which I believe it was in 55 that he attacks his own sculpture, which was the Pietà that is now also in the Accademia in Florence, the Florentine Pietà. And he attacks it with a sledgehammer, okay, because he's like not happy with what he's doing, with what his hands are capable of doing anymore. However, all of this stress and unhappiness that he goes through in his life can't have been too bad for him, because he lives until 88, okay? So he lives quite a while. He dies at 88 in his in Via dei Corvi, in his home in Rome. He never wants to go back to Florence again. He's like, I'm done with Florence. Fuck them all. So he promises he will never be back to Florence. He dies in Rome, and he dies. It is said that he was. They found him with the same clothes he'd had on for weeks, disheveled. As I said, never taking good care of himself, never spending the money of himself. All the money that he made went to spending it on real estate and to building up a big amount of just inheritance for the one person that he believed could carry on after him, which was Leonardo. Leonardo, you haven't heard of him up till now. Michelangelo has no children. He leaves everything to his nephew, the son of his brother, because, as I said, he wants to continue the Buonarroti name. It's very important to him. So he wants Leonardo to have all the property and money possible to continue and enrich the family, to marry well and have children. He wants the lineage to continue. Okay, when Michelangelo dies, he is found in this condition like a poor person almost, but with a big chest of golden coins underneath his bed. Okay, so he's always trying to take more money and more possessions, but just so he can pass them on and keep them in the family to Leonardo. And what does Leonardo do? When Michelangelo dies, he is already a rock star, as I told you. The Pope for sure is going to want him to be buried in Rome, because everyone wants him so that they can say he's buried here. In Florence, they've been trying to get him back to Florence for a long time. Now there's the Medici are ruling Florence. There's another set of Medici, we'll talk about that more another time, ruling Florence, which have been calling him there for quite a long time. Most importantly, the PR of Cosimo I of the Medici family is Giorgio Vasari. Giorgio Vasari is obsessed with Michelangelo. I mean, most artists are, but Giorgio Vasari is obsessed, like totally fangirling over him. I'm sure he had a poster in his room, like obsessed. So he's been pleading with Michelangelo to come to Florence. And he's like, I do not give like two shits about coming back to Florence. So Leonardo steals the body of his uncle, who he knows doesn't want to go back to Florence, takes it to Florence in secret and sells it to the Medici family so that the Medici can bury it in Santa Croce Church, which is the church where all the famous people are buried. It's like the Florentine Pantheon, let's say. And so he can be buried there, and all the people of Florence can come and have this open casket moment where they come and see him before he's buried, and so that Giorgio Vasari can be so excited about being the one to design his tomb. So he ends up buried in Florence in a tomb designed by his biggest fan, Giorgio Vasari, totally against his will, and that is where he's buried today. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed learning maybe something you didn't know about Michelangelo. And I will see you in the next video. Remember to subscribe. Remember to follow us and like the video. And I will see you next time. Bye.